Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive.
This one is all about building companies that are truly obsessed with their customers.
Something I'm sure we can all appreciate.
Absolutely.
You sent us this super interesting article, Adaptive Design, Increasing Customer Value in Your Organization.
And I've got just the person to help us break it down.
A resident expert.
Ready to get into it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This article is like a playbook for the modern business world.
So the article kicks off by talking about how the old way of doing business,
Focusing just on efficiency.
well, it's so yesterday, right?
Yeah.
Like that old clunky flip phone.
It worked, but nobody's rocking that anymore.
Totally.
And the article points out that this shift is happening for a few reasons.
One is that the world is changing faster than ever.
Think about it. Technology, globalization.
Even just the sheer amount of choice we have now,
Right.
it's all impacting what customers expect from the companies they do business with.
And it's not just about the speed of change.
It's about the whole experience.
Look at companies like Uber or Amazon.
They've totally raised the bar.
They're not just selling products or services.
They're selling convenience.
A feeling, a whole vibe, right?
They've absolutely cracked the code on delivering what customers want.
Even before they know they want it.
And that's where this idea of adaptive organizational design comes in.
The article suggests that this is the key for businesses that want to not just survive.
But actually thrive in this new landscape.
Okay, so adaptive design.
It sounds kind of catchy, but what does it actually mean?
Is it just a fancy way of saying go with the flow?
It's definitely more than just going with the flow.
It's about building companies that are agile and responsive
Companies that can anticipate what's coming next,
and adapt quickly to meet customer needs.
even as those needs are changing.
And how do companies actually do that?
Is it something you can just sprinkle on top of an existing company structure?
It's definitely not a quick fix.
The article dives into the nitty-gritty of how companies can actually transform themselves.
It identifies 4 key elements of organizational design: process, structure, technology, and people.
Now, even if you're not the CEO calling the shots,
I'm guessing this stuff still matters, right?
absolutely, understanding these principles can be a game changer.
No matter where you sit in an organization,
It's about being able to navigate change
understand the why behind decisions.
and even see opportunities to add value.
So we've talked about adapting to the customer.
But before we go any further, we've got to define what we actually mean by customer value.
It seems pretty obvious, but is it really?
You're right. It's one of those things that's easy to toss around, but much harder to pin down.
Thankfully, this article gives us a really practical breakdown.
It identifies 4 key inputs that contribute to customer value.
Okay, let's hear them.
The first input is brand loyalty.
This is all about that feeling of trust and affinity that keeps customers coming back for more.
Even if there are cheaper or seemingly similar options available,
Like that coffee shop you're always raving about.
what is it about them that keeps you hooked?
Exactly. The second input is customer satisfaction.
This is about how well a company meets or even exceeds your expectations.
That feeling of, wow, they really get me.
That's customer satisfaction in action. And it's amazing how such seemingly small things can make a huge difference.
Right.
Like if you have a problem with your order,
Mm-hmm.
how does the company handle it?
Do they make you feel valued and heard?
Or do they make you jump through hoops?
That totally reminds me of this time I had an issue with, well, I won't name any names.
But let's just say their customer service was definitely not exceeding my expectations.
I think we've all been there.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on to the third input, which is functional benefit,
This one is all about how well a product or service actually solves a problem.
or fulfills a need for the customer.
Does it do what it says on the tin, basically?
Exactly. And it's not just about functionality.
Okay.
It's also about ease of use, reliability, all those practical considerations that make a product a joy to use instead of a pain in the you-know-what.
Right. Nobody wants to wrestle with a product that feels like it was designed in the dark ages.
And that brings us to the final input, sale price.
Now, this one might seem like a no-brainer.
Obviously, price matters,
Right.
but it's actually more nuanced than that, isn't it?
It really is.
Because while we all love a good deal,
Yeah.
sometimes we're willing to pay a premium for certain brands or features.
And that comes down to perceived value.
It's like, would you pay extra for a sustainability-sourced product?
Or one that's backed by a company with amazing customer service.
Or maybe a product that just makes you feel cool or stylish when you use it.
Precisely.
It's all about understanding the why behind those purchasing decisions.
And this is where things get really interesting for businesses.
Right.
Because once you understand these 4 inputs of customer value,
You can start to design your entire organization around them.
so it's not just about slapping on a friendly customer service team as an afterthought.
Not at all.
This is about a fundamental shift in how companies are structured.
And how they operate.
Okay.
One of the most intriguing ideas the article presents
Yeah.
is this concept of organizing business units around customer groups.
Instead of product groups,
So instead of having a marketing department, a sales department, a customer service department,
all doing their own thing.
right,
You would have teams that are specifically dedicated to serving, say, young professionals or families with young children.
exactly.
Each team would have all the skills and resources they need to understand and meet the unique needs of that specific customer group,
It's like creating mini companies
Yeah.
within the larger company.
each with a laser focus on a specific type of customer.
That's a great way to put it.
And this approach can lead to a more agile and responsive organization overall.
Because instead of having to navigate a bunch of different departments and silos,
Yeah.
the customer has a dedicated team that's their one-stop shop for everything.
Exactly. It streamlines the entire customer experience.
And speaking of streamlining,
The article highlights 3 key takeaways for building a more customer-centric organization.
the first one is to focus on a single customer segment
So, resist the urge to be everything to everyone.
and instead become the absolute best at serving a very specific niche.
Exactly. It's about finding your tribe and becoming their go-to solution.
The second takeaway is about building diverse and agile teams.
Because even if you're laser focused on one customer segment,
The needs are still going to be complex and constantly evolving.
exactly, you need teams that are packed with diverse perspectives, skills, and experiences to tackle those challenges effectively.
And those teams can't be these massive bureaucratic behemoths either.
Which brings us to the third takeaway, reducing team size.
The article suggests that smaller teams, ideally between 25 and 75 people,
Okay.
tend to be more cohesive, more motivated, and much more responsive to change.
Because when you have a smaller team,
You can communicate more easily, build stronger relationships, and make decisions faster.
it's all about agility.
Precisely. And the article actually backs up these recommendations with some pretty impressive stats from their research.
It found that 100%.
That's right. Every single one
Wow.
of the leaders they interviewed who had successfully redesigned their organizations around their customers.
Us on increase in customer value.
100%. That's wild.
So it's not just some warm and fuzzy feeling.
There are real, measurable results from putting the customer at the heart of everything.
Absolutely. And it wasn't just a small bump either.
The study found that 85.7% saw a significant jump in customer satisfaction,
Wow.
and nearly 71.5% saw their brand value go up. That's huge.
Those are some seriously compelling numbers.
But the article doesn't just drop these stats and call it a day.
It digs even deeper into this idea of actually involving customers in the design and development process.
It's almost like a partnership.
Exactly. It's like taking that customer-centric approach.
And putting it into overdrive.
And what's fascinating is that there are different levels of involvement.
Yep.
It's not just about sending out a survey or hosting a focus group once in a blue moon.
Right.
Some companies are going as far as embedding customers right into their product development teams.
Wow.
Can you imagine?
Wow. Talk about bringing the customer's voice to the table.
But that must come with its own set of challenges.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
It takes a lot of effort to do it right.
But the payoff can be huge.
Think about it. When customers feel like they're genuinely part of the process,
Yeah.
their trust and loyalty skyrocketed.
Yay.
It's like they're invested in the company's success.
And let's be real.
Who better to tell you what works and what doesn't than the people who are actually going to be using your product or service every day?
It just makes sense.
It does. And here's the kicker.
This level of customer involvement doesn't just reduce the risk of launching a dud.
Okay.
It can actually lead to more innovative solutions.
Yeah.
Customers often have fresh perspectives and ideas that wouldn't have even occurred to the most seasoned product development team.
Because they're seeing things from a totally different angle.
And the article backs this up with some really interesting findings.
It mentions that companies who bring customers directly into the development process tend to have a much higher success rate with their products.
It's not just about being nice, it's a smart business strategy.
And one thing the article stresses is the importance of direct involvement.
Okay.
It's one thing to collect data from surveys and focus groups.
But actually collaborating with customers directly, that's where the magic really happens.
This builds stronger relationships and leads to much better outcomes.
It's like that old saying, show, don't tell.
Don't just tell your customers you care.
Show them by actually bringing them into the fold.
Exactly.
But even with all this amazing insight, the article acknowledges that becoming a truly customer-centric organization isn't a one-time fix.
Right.
It's a journey, not a destination.
It takes time, effort, and a willingness to adapt along the way.
It's like anything worthwhile in life, right?
It's not about perfection, it's about progress.
I love that.
And to help us navigate this journey, the article gives us some really practical steps to get started.
Okay.
First up, figure out where you stand right now.
How agile is your organization?
How truly customer-centric are you?
You can't chart a course without knowing your starting point.
Right, you don't start a road trip without looking at a map.
Exactly. And once you have a clear picture of where you're at.
You need to define your destination, your why.
Okay.
Who are you trying to serve, and what kind of value are you trying to create for them?
It all comes back to purpose, right?
Once you have that North Star, everything else becomes clearer.
Exactly. Then it's about figuring out how you're going to measure success.
What are the key metrics that actually matter to your customers?
It's not about vanity metrics.
Right.
It's about tracking the things that have a real impact on their experience.
Focus on what really moves the needle.
And instead of trying to overhaul your entire company overnight,
The article suggests starting small.
maybe pick one key customer segment and run a pilot project.
Love that. Test out these principles.
See what works, and then use those learnings to refine your approach before rolling it out to the whole organization.
Like dipping your toes in the water before taking the plunge.
Exactly. This is all about taking a strategic, iterative approach.
You're going to make mistakes, you're going to learn, and that's okay.
It's all part of the journey.
Well, this deep dive has been full of so many actionable insights.
I feel like I've got a whole new playbook for thinking about customer value and organizational design.
Me too. It's been fantastic unpacking all of this with you.
And with you, as always.
And for our listeners out there, we'd love to hear from you.
What resonated with you from this deep dive? What are you going to put into action?
Hit us up on social media, slide into our DMs. We love hearing your thoughts.
That's it for this deep dive. Until next time, keep asking those big questions and diving deeper into the topics that matter to you.